by reliable sources. When it gets into something like that might be true, I think it could be. There's been a number of reports about it, but yeah, I stay away from that because there's too much stuff that we know to be true that we get into that we don't need to go there, because all we would have to do is start pounding a table on something like that and somebody prove it to be wrong, and then your credibility goes right down the drain. So I wish I could talk more about it, but I've always stayed away from it. I mean, we bring it up because people talk about it, but that's it.
Thanks, Bill. One more question, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Cliff High's webbots have been forecasting what he calls the rich riots, which is rich people, I guess, who own precious metals and have them stored in vaults, will want to claim it and remove it out of the vaults. Of course, because of this, the vaults probably will not be able to satisfy everyone that wants their metal back. I'm assuming that would lead to the panic, or that would be the rich riot. Do you see a forecast like that? Can you see a scenario like this?
What? In a way, yes. But from a little different perspective, we stumbled into the realizing that many of what these banks do is they sell gold and silver to the same people over and over and over again and store it for the people. So, but they don't have, and then they take all the money and invest it and use it for funds. So they tell people it's like fractional banking. They tell people that they have all this gold and silver. It's like they're in what they call unallocated accounts. So, and we've been starting to make a little stink about that, and we think, of course, this is a big problem because obviously if a number of people all come to claim their gold and silver at the same time and the banks can't deliver it, I don't know that you panic or riot, but you're going to have a lot of the very, very upset people. And I do think that we're going to have riots in our country. I think the standard of living, I've been saying this for years and years, it's going to go down 35% in the United States. Instead of 2 cars, you got 1 car. 2 TVs, 1 TV. You know, eat out twice a week, eat out once a week. It's just, we're broke. Things have to be cut back. Their standard of living has been way too high for what we have, and that's what all these deficits are about. We just can't afford it anymore. So that's where I think there's going to be small riots, not necessarily major ones, but you're going to see stuff like you saw in Greece. No doubt in my mind when this starts happening and things have to be cut, and the average person isn't going to understand what's going on and why. And and they're going to be just really upset. It's going to be very bad. And, of course, that's going to fuel more money into gold and silver, which, you never want it for that reason, but that was what I see happening, where I see riots coming. I just think when it comes to the gold and silver that you're just going to have a bunch of it could create quite a scene when a lot enough people all want to get their gold and silver around the same time, and the people that these banks can't deliver it. So we'll see, but I think that's coming.
Well, Bill, thank you very much for your answers. I appreciate that.
My pleasure.
Bill, this is Vito again, and for what it's worth, I do see Gaddis Day coming, and the private gold owner, the American gold owner, getting their day. And on that note, you've been on record since 2005 or before as predicting gold eventually hitting the price of $3,000 to $5,000 an ounce. Given the latest increase that we've had, when do you see this price of $3,000 to $5,000 coming?
Well, it's an interesting story. I love to tell it. Is at our conference in the Gold Rush 21, and the price was $436. I said this is going to take $3,000 to $5,000 to clear the market. I mean, it's just a number, quite frankly. So I've stayed with the same thing over and over to be consistent. But I mean, it can go to 3,000 or 10,000. I don't know. But I felt back then that was a safe prediction. And again, $436 was the price. We had at our conference. I was a guy named Andrei Bykov, who was an economic consultant of President Putin, showed up out of nowhere. And by the way, he's coming to our conference in London. 6 years later, he's back. 2 days after he said it was the finest conference he'd ever attended. And that's all he does is go to conferences. He was a big time guy in Russia. And 2 days after the conference, the gold price was doing nothing. It started to explode 2 days later after he left, and it went up $300 an ounce in the following 9 months. And about a month after the conference, there was a picture taken of Putin holding a gold bar. I mean, which we have. But so it was very exciting. So I don't, in terms of the timetable, you know, it's so difficult because they manage the price so much. And a lot of it might depend upon, you know, world events, how soon these crises kick in. But I could see it, I don't know, the next 2 or 3 years, 3,000 to 5,000.
Do you see the price eventually going even far, far above, excluding
it's
anything?
possible.
What do you think about the Sorry, Bill.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
What do you think about the possibilities of hyperinflation happening, or another false flag event, say, perhaps? And what would it do to the price of gold?
There's no telling what can do it. If you equate it to the amount of dollars that have been printed and what's going on there, when it comes to silver, say, what do you think the silver price can do? I say, pick a number. There's no telling what silver can do. It's gone.
Sure.
And the good news for silver is that gold's so expensive that a lot of people are buying silver now because they can't afford gold. So they're loading up on silver, which is making the gold cartel, which is what I call this group, it's making their position a nightmare. You know, you don't need to know what, I mean, I have no idea about these numbers. I know silver's going past 100, that's for sure. But, I mean, some people think it's going to go to $400 an ounce. I don't know. But the thing is, we know the dynamics because of what we know on Planet Gata. We know what's going to happen. The timetable's always tough, like when they just rated the market over the past month. You can't, and they can slow it down. But the more they've done this, they've created too much demand at too low prices, the bigger the move's going to be. So I'm just confident that it's going to be much, much higher and that fortunes will be made. And the exact numbers, I mean, my guess is no better than anyone else, and that's why I'm just going to stick to 3,000 to 5,000, because I've been saying it when it was at 436, and here we are at almost at 1,600.
I'm with you. I'm just glad that I live on Planet Gata. Thanks, Bill.
Thank you.
Hello, this is Muskrat again. Some suggest that the paper price of silver could go up to around $40 an ounce and then decline to around $25 an ounce briefly before beginning the ascent past 50. How likely do you view that scenario?
I would be absolutely stunned and totally wrong if that were to occur. You've had the correction down to 32 and change. Silver has built a massive base between $33 and $38 an ounce over since late April when the J.P. Morgan and the crooks went after it. They depleted a lot more silver too cheaply. It's built a huge base. It closed above $38. I think it was Thursday, and it followed through Friday on the upside. It came back and tested it. I think down about 38.17. It's getting ready to explode. I think. You know, the first key was $38 an ounce. The second key, in my book, is around $39.30 to $39.50. We're just about there. If you look at a weekly chart, you'll see why that the price could start really accelerate again if we take out, let's say, $39.15. So I think you've already had that correction. I would be dead wrong if it goes down from here and makes a new low. It had plenty of time to do it. You know, we're going to have our conference again. Hopefully that's going to make an impact. And, you know, the Andrew Maguire's hearing the price of silver. This was in March 25th of last year. Price is 16 and change. It went to 50. You know, in a year after. We think that thanks to Andrew Maguire and what we presented, had a major impact on the silver market. And we hope that this conference is going to do the same. So we'll see. But no, the answer is I would be flabbergasted if silver went down again.
Thank you very much for that answer. And I have a question now from Forum Member Plain. They ask, many opponents of the gold-backed currency use terms such as bullion banksters to express their feeling that the old days were not so good and that the gold was a manipulated item. The crime of 1973 is one example of this. How would you respond to the fears that the banksters have too much of the gold and thus a return to greenbacks would be better?
Well, I honestly, I'm not sure I get the whole question because I just don't sure I understand the question. I'll do the best I can. In essence, they don't. Again, the rest of the world is starting to rule the gold market, whereas in days past it used to be the United States had the gold, and we just don't have the total control like we had in the past. And we don't know how much gold the United States have. I said 8,134 tons. Do they have that, or is it leased out, or is it swapped? I mean, it gets complicated. We might only have half the gold we say we have. I don't see, gold coming into any major role. I mean, but I'm not a sophisticate on that sort of an issue. I mean, I again try to stick to what I know, and I know that the demand has been much greater than supply, and they've gone through supply, and that it's way undervalued. Even the establishment said it should be, if it just kept pace with inflation, 2,400. So I go at it from being an ex-commodity trader. From soybeans to pork bellies to hogs to copper, and I understand trading, and I understand supply demand, and I understand how markets work, and I understand how markets get rigged, and I know what the prices of gold and silver are going to have to do to clear the market. They're way, way undervalued here, even after the run, and there's no telling what silver can do. So I stick to that. What could happen with the government and what they might do, or this or that, I'll just go back again to what I said, that if they start messing around in the gold and silver area, well, they're already messing around with it, but I mean, if they do things, that's the reason they don't want anyone to know and the public to know. Anything that was, they wouldn't even want to talk about it. So I don't see anything changing except them continually trying to get out of the scandal that they've got themselves in and the fraud. And I think that's when the S is going to hit the fan, is when the silver market blows up. And there's force majeures and defaults, and the CFTC is going to have to explain how they can investigate this for years and do nothing. And I'll tell you one thing, I can't wait to be like that old guy Joe McCarthy was in front of Congress, screaming and yelling at the CFTC and the politicians and just pounding